What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 7 premiere episode, Episode 1. And it is called Chapter 118, Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh my god. Okay, guys. Welcome back. It's been a minute. As always, stay tuned for the end of the episode of the podcast. We're going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments, our best lines, and your guys' best moments. Oh my god, we had so many good roundups this week. I am so excited to go through them with you because it taught me a thing. And I was like, holy crap. Okay. So stick around for the end of the podcast for that.
Amazing. And as always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into
this.
This
isn't
episode,
Chanel.
y'all.
This is Recap Rewinds.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, it's been so long, J-Lag. How long has it been?
It's
like
been
a year.
A year probably in a bit. I feel like
it's been a minute, and
been a minute.
I can't believe Riverdale's back. I can't believe this is the final season. Like,
Final season.
we started a long time ago, and I won't say where we started because that might get us in trouble. But but we started it, and here we are. I can't believe it's like we're seeing almost the end. Like,
yeah. It's wild.
Crazy.
It's wild that we like took it all the way to the end. Like, this is the longest running show that we've covered, I think, in terms of span. Like, we did Game of Thrones, but I feel like it was a lot less like gaps of time.
We didn't start, I feel like, with Game of Thrones. Like, we didn't do the whole season.
I feel like we like recap season 1.
Yeah, like it was like too much to go through.
What episode? Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, like even remembering back like the first episode that we did of Riverdale, even Riverdale, we did like episode 1 to 4 was our very first podcast. Yeah, we should go back and listen to it because and everyone that has kind of come along the journey with us, listen to the first episode and
guys,
see how wild we sound.
You have to listen and like, oh my god, I wish we were on video because we weren't doing video at that time. We weren't
doing video. Yeah.
We're on TikTok right now. We're just like uploading like our old like snippets and clips. So if you guys want to follow us on there, you guys can do that as well. I think it's just at recap_rewind. Okay, so the episode is called Don't Worry, Darling, right?
Right.
And did you watch the movie?
I did watch the movie, kind of got a recap vibe of it. Okay. So
I have no idea if like, I don't know if like they took the title because of they watched the film and they were like, oh my god, this is so whatever. But if you guys haven't seen the film, and I don't want to give it away fully, but after seeing this episode, it does sort of like lend to that movie concept a little bit, in the sense that like in the movie they are in the 50s. But are they really? Wink, 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 wink. And I'll just leave it at that. And now that you're sort of watching this episode, you really get to see those connections to that film. Right. It was a great film, honestly. Like, all the hype, like I think it deserved it. So like I did enjoy it. So I would definitely recommend everyone go see that. But that's sort of the title of this episode, and the connection, I guess, maybe to the movie. So yeah. But there's a lot to talk about. I think this episode's going to be long, and I'm not mad at it because it's been a year. But I want to ask you overall your thoughts on this first episode.
Okay. I had to come up with like a word when I was like, I was like, NB's going to ask me this question.
Yeah.
What did I think about this? My word for this episode, and hopefully it's not for the entire season, is jarring. It was jarring.
Ooh.
Wow. It was jarring. And there's a few reasons why I feel this way.
Okay.
One being the fact that we're shot back into the 1950s.
Yep.
It's jarring to see our characters that we've grown to know and love in a certain time period, in a certain era, and now we're like, this is the season. Like, from what we know so far, this is what we're getting, right? Like, there's no foreseeable future currently, based on the end of this episode, that we are going to be shot into the future and like see our characters as we remember them. So that's the jarring part to it as well. And also, I think we did talk about this in our finale episode of last season, knowing that this was going to kind of come. I think at that point in time, we knew that they were doing this 1950s like throwback or whatever, and the concept, and how we were a little concerned with the subject matter, you know, the time period, what are they going to talk about, what is important, and just watching the episode, in true Riverdale fashion, you know, you have these scenes that are very meaningful and poignant and historical, and some are very powerful. And then, like, literally right after, like, Veronica deciding what cards she should jump into at after class. So, like, just jarring. That was my experience of this episode.
Very
And
true. Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see, like, you know, what that means moving forward. But what did you think? What did you think of the episode?
So if you want to choose one word, I'm gonna say powerful.
Ooh.
And you made some great points. And I wish, guys, and I enjoyed it. I will say I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited for this season. I'm excited for what this season seems to stand for.
Mhm.
Guys, I really wish they had done this earlier. Like,
Yeah.
really, the entire time I'm watching this, and the messaging and like just the narrative of like what they're talking about, it's so powerful for
Yeah.
a it's almost like you have to go back to rewrite the future and to make the future right.
Ooh,
And there's something
chills.
it's I know, me too. And like there's something so powerful about that. But knowing that this is the end, I felt like a little detached because I was like, oh, like I don't want to get into it. Like I don't want to love it again because like I know it's almost over.
Yeah.
But I wish this had been like a season 3 or like a season 4, like. And also the fact that like honestly, I'm looking at these guys and like no shit, but like y'all got older. Like I can see those wrinkles and
That
like
close-up shot of
like
Archie. Oh,
the
oh,
close-up shots on everyone. Like I was like you guys got old and well, it's
yeah.
fine. Like I love them, but like like me believing that they're back in this like oh innocent young kitty time. It's
Yes.
just it was a little hard
Like,
to sort
they're
of
supposed to be
swallow.
third year high school students. Like,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
And
Uh-uh.
and there's a lot of time jumps, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
let's go here, let's go there, let's go here. It's like I feel kind of all thrown around. Nevertheless, I loved it. Lily said something really interesting, and she was like, I think she was like, I'm ready to be done. She's like,
Yeah.
she goes, I'm still playing a 17-year-old girl. Like
Yeah.
she goes like it's enough,
Yeah.
like you know, like like we're past that. And that's so true. I think for how I felt after this episode, I was like I love what they're doing, I love it. Again, I just wish it was a little bit earlier in their series where I could have like believed it a little bit more, whereas now like we got used to seeing them as adults for like a full
Yeah.
season, like an
We
FBI
got thrown
agent, like
we got thrown 7 years forward last
yeah.
season, and now we're getting thrown
And now it's
50
like
years
so
back.
back.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of whiplash, but I still am
That's
so
that's a good
excited.
word for it.
I'm so excited to see what they're gonna do. It's a very powerful episode. To your point, it's like real issues, and then it's like Veronica's bangs and like her parents and I'm like, okay, like it's still
Exactly.
Riverdale, but
Exactly.
I'll take it, I guess. But
Yeah.
I really did love the episode. So
And that's the thing. I think when you're fans, like we have been since the very beginning, you really just have to
ride
clench
with it.
and ride with it. This
And
is
the
Riverdale, and
writing
this is what it is.
was beautiful. I will say in
Yeah.
this episode, the writing gave me
Strong
chills
first episode.
so many times, and like it was really beautiful. Before we get into the episode, I do want to quickly mention because I did see a couple of tweets. The Bughead fans are like RIP. They're like, we did not get a crumb, we did not get a wrinkle, like we didn't get anything. And somebody was like, I think Bughead's done.
Like
And
dead forever.
like dead. And I will say, I don't know if you watched the interview with Cole Sprouse on Call Her Daddy.
No, I didn't.
I really want to talk about this really quick because if you were not a big fan of Cole Sprouse before, you are gonna hate him after that interview.
Oh,
it
no.
was terrible. And the entire time
gosh.
I'm watching this episode, I'm like, oh my god, I hate you so much. All I picture is his dumbass cigarette floating in like the background. You gotta watch this interview. He was so cringe. He was so cringe. And the things he said about Lily, the things he said about that relationship, he talked about it trying to be like, yeah, but like we're better now and like we worked through it. But you like dumped her along the way. Like the things you said like imply that like it was so toxic.
Something
So I don't even want to see a Bughead on screen because I don't know how those two are ever gonna be in a scene together again. That's what I'm trying to say because it was bad.
That is some spicy tea. Now,
so if you guys, you have to listen to it, and I really want to hear your thoughts on it because I watched it, finished it, and I was like, oh, like Cole, you're so cute. And then I like saw the commentary, and I was like, oh did I miss something? And then I went back and I was like, oh my God, he was really cringe. Like it was
Oh
bad.
boy. Oh
So
gosh. Okay.
yeah.
I'll check it out. I'll check
Yeah.
it out.
So yeah,
Okay.
this
Let's get into it.
yeah.
Let's get into the episode.
Let's do
First
it.
time for the last time.
Aww.
Okay, so it opens up with like a new 50s intro, which was an interesting thing because I almost was hoping that like we saw this as a teaser.
It was like Happy Days apparently.
Oh,
did you ever watch
okay.
Happy Days? I never watched it, but
I'm assuming it's kind of got that like ding, wink, 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 you know, kind of vibe. But like it never really went anywhere. Like it was just an intro and then it went straight into Jughead talking. So like it was just a random kind of insert. But cool. Like trying something new for the final season, sure. But then we get a narration to kind of catch us up on as to like where they're at, what's happening. Jughead essentially says that it's been 2 days since Bailey's comet zapped them back in time. So he's kind of telling us like where we're at. And yeah, he's typing away at Pops and he kind of goes through every character. So I want to talk to you about that because starts off with him saying he lives in an abandoned train car with his dog Hot Dog. Cool.
Yeah.
Kevin and Betty are dating, which I'm sure we're going to delve into this season. The twins are back, but it's not Cheryl and Jason. It's Cheryl and Julian.
J-Lag.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. He does mention something that is very bizarre because it doesn't come up this entire episode.
Who, Jughead?
Yeah. He says, no sign of Reggie. And then he just moves on.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for mentioning that because he was like, still no sign of Reggie.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like,
so
you're
bizarre.
waiting for the bully? Like, what? Like
are you?
I mean,
are
Reggie's
you
gonna be in it. We know that. Like, Charles Melton was on set. Like, he was filming. So I wonder if his character is gonna have some sort of like significance. That's why they're not introducing him just yet. But
or is like was it because of Charles Melton's scheduling issues? Like, is that the only reason why he wasn't?
There must be something behind that line there because it was such a random thing to say. Like, as if Reggie was so important that like you have to say it like that.
That's what I mean. Like, he wasn't a time jumper. Like, he barely had any powers last season. Like, he didn't have any significance. So
was he working with Percival?
He was, but by the end of it, he wasn't. Like, he was working with them. So. But I don't know. Anyway, he kind of got lost by the end of last season too.
He did, yeah.
So anyway, he's not in this current timeline as he sees it, I guess. Archie, basic, simple line, straight line,
just
like
our regular Archie.
Just
our regular, and I can't hate him for it.
You open up that comic book and Archie's still Archie.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's a kind of nice grounding feel to be like, okay, at least he's the same.
Yeah.
And he does say that he wants to reconnect with everybody, but he wants to wait for somebody special who can time jump in, blah, blah, blah. And it's obviously he's talking about Tabitha. And in that exact moment, as we hear it in the voiceover, Tabitha shows up on a bus from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Pops calls it out. And you find out that a bunch of Riverdale students of color went to the trial of Emmett Till, who was murdered after whistling at a white woman.
Supposedly,
like either way, whistling at a white woman does not
like
anyway, it's a very tragic story and it's a true story. If anybody doesn't know that, it's a horrible timepiece in American history. But they got away with it. It's just absolutely tragic. Jughead finally gets to talk to Tabitha. She comes into Pop's diner and he assumes that she remembers him, but she does not.
He's like, "Hey, girl."
He's like, "Hey." She's like, "Who the hell are you?" And she actually doesn't remember him at all. She's like, "Who are you? Like, your name's Jughead." And he says something really interesting as he's like kind of going through the rest of the voiceover. He says, whichever genius said that the 50s were the decade of all time should seriously have their head examined. And I just thought it was funny to hear that line for multiple reasons, but also because we said the same thing. But when we found out that they were
all the
pushing to
time.
that, we were just like,
It's
why the 50s? Like, what a
why
random place to put you.
I understand why. I understand why the people that are saying that because they're probably white and they're straight and they're, you know, like it's coming from a certain perspective
Yeah.
where like, yeah, everything was probably a
It was
man.
great for
Everything was
them.
great.
Yeah.
It's funny because that reminded me they were talking about in White Lotus this season. There's three generations of men and they go
Mhm.
to Italy, they go to Sicily, and the grandfather and the dad are saying, "Oh my God, The Godfather was the best movie of all time. Like it was so sick and like all these things."
Right.
And the son looks to them and he's like, "How was that like the sickest time ever? Like women were like oppressed,
Yeah.
like racism was in full force.
Yeah.
Like it was great for you guys because you were white, straight, wealthy men.
Yes.
So sure, you're idolizing this time in history, and the movie is doing that as well.
For sure.
And like, you know, you hit women, you gamble, you do all these things. Like you're idolizing that time because it was great for you guys, but it wasn't great for anyone
Right.
else.
Yeah,
And now
exactly.
that's it, like perfectly like reflected like what's happening here. Like here are these people.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a great time.
Exactly.
What was it?
It's just like a, yeah, it's a weird time, and obviously they're hitting you right in the beginning of the season with why it wasn't a good time, and I'm glad they highlighted it right away,
Yes.
because I
Yeah.
feel like if they left it for a little too long, then I would have been like, guys, it's the
Say it.
50s and
Say
you have
it.
colored people and you have gay people in this
Yep.
series. Like, what is wrong with you?
Especially for Archie. Like Archie
Yeah.
comics is
Yeah.
this. It's the
Yes.
50s. It's like those
Yeah.
cars and the diners and like
Yeah.
Americana. Like that's what it is. And I'm so shocked that it took them this long, 7 seasons, to really like sort of knock down
Yeah.
at that theme, you know?
To
Like
like
they
turn the camera a little bit, change the angle, and be like,
yeah.
look at it this way, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And to that point, I'm interested to see, not to make it a race thing, but it is a race thing, how the white characters interact with this experience, the story, these
Mhm.
storylines that are, I don't think this is going to be the first and last.
No,
I
no.
would be a little bit disappointed if this was the
Yeah.
last time we talk about race and when they're in the 50s, because it was everywhere and it was everything that at that time. I mean, it still kind of is, but anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Actually, speaking of which, Archie is leaving. Do you want to say something?
No, what I was gonna say was like on top of that, like what's interesting is that like the characters within Riverdale don't sort of like thing each other. Like because Vanessa Morgan's character is biracial, like they don't look at her like, oh, like you're like that.
Right.
So it's not
Right.
necessarily happening within the town, but it's happening obviously within the time period and the country.
Yeah.
So that's still like an interesting sort of way to handle it, you know? Like
And I know that we'll get there, but I don't know if you noticed, but they weren't in the lounge when they were talking. Like Tabitha, Tony were not in the
so I
lounge while
was
they were hanging
wondering
out.
that. Did you think that's because of like segregation?
I was wondering if it was segregation, or I was wondering if it was just like a purposeful like divide between the races, because it's just generally like, even if you could be in a mixed school, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to want to hang out with the people that are unfamiliar to you or
Yeah.
different, you know? So
And
maybe that is going to be something that they cover later
I
as
think
well, like,
I
you
would
know.
hope that it does, just to like cover off all the things, even like
Absolutely.
colored bathrooms, like having different
Yeah.
bath. That was a
Yeah.
thing at that time.
For
Like,
sure. For
you know,
sure.
you got to be real and like still talk about it, and
Yeah.
maybe they'll get to that anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, just overall, I did love the Tony and Betty interactions that
Me
really like
too.
brought it to me in a very gentle way. But anyway, well, we can get to
Yeah.
that. We'll get to that. This is
Yeah.
gonna be a long episode,
This is gonna be
ladies.
long.
So
We're
let's get
giving them
into
a
this.
lot when we haven't been
Yes,
on
for
in a long
sure.
time.
So Archie's about to leave for school, and Mary shows up and she says, I'm just so heartbroken over this James Dean car accident. It's so terrible. And she doesn't want Archie to take his car to school anymore. She's like, I'm worried. Give me your car keys. Go take your bike. And he gets upset. And I actually wrote down in our notes, like, white boy problems, like such unrelatable
Literally,
content. Like, he's like,
mommy,
Mom,
I can't drive my like
car.
fast car to school.
These guys are fighting racism and going to
Meanwhile,
Mississippi. Like,
you want to talk about like white power? Mans is driving on the road. He's not even taking the sidewalk. Like
Oh
you're
my
not
God.
a car. Why are you on the
Yeah.
main road? The cars are like driving
like-
like move out of the
He's
way.
like, get out of my way. Yeah.
Like why are you in the middle of the road, Archie? Move.
So anyway, yeah, he bikes to school in the middle of the road. And then it shows Betty and Tony, as we were mentioning,
Mm-hmm.
talking about something that she wrote to report back to the Blue and Gold newspaper. Betty loves it. She thinks it's like such a great piece of writing, but she's extremely worried that it's likely not going to be published because the principal didn't want to talk about Emmett Till before. He's not going to talk about it now, and
Right.
she's like, I'm going to try my best. We can go and talk to him. We'll set up a meeting, but like, don't get your hopes up, essentially,
Yeah.
is what she says to Tony. Then it cuts to a classroom. Everybody's hanging out. Teachers, like, then we have like a
I
little
love
Mean
this.
Girls moment where Veronica Lodge is the brand new student being
Set this up,
introduced.
right? Because this is such a good setup because I was like, oh, like in the beginning when Jughead talks about everyone, like he doesn't talk about Veronica. So I was like, oh,
Right.
okay. And in the first sort of iteration of the show, like she does have this really sort of iconic entrance when Betty and Archie are in this diner, and then here comes this girl,
Yes.
like she walks in there like, huh? And so she kind of gets another like second really cool introduction
Introduction.
into
Yeah.
this Riverdale.
She's glamorous and she's got her sunglasses on. She's got her, she's living the whole like
You forgot one
LA.
important thing.
What? Her bangs?
The clip-on bangs. I can't. They're like those
Oh my
Kirsten.
god.
Remember the Kristen
Kristen
Cavallari
Cavallari bangs?
Oh my
Bad,
god, I'll
bad.
be
Oh my god, I
dead.
could not even deal.
Oh my god.
So she comes in with her bangs and she's like introduced from sunny Los Angeles. She is the daughter. We find
Yeah.
out right away. She's the daughter of Hermione and Hiram Lodge, who are the actors of the show Oh
Oh,
Mija,
Mija.
which is a reference to I Love Lucy. Like it's pretty obvious that that is where
Can I
they're pulling
ask you,
from.
what did you think about her origin story for this? Like, why did they change it? Like, why is she a starlet of like a Hollywood couple in this version?
Honestly,
Like, I didn't understand that.
honestly, I really do feel like it has to do with the fact that and really quickly, shout out to Mark Consuelos. Today is his birthday. So
Happy
happy
birthday,
birthday, Daddy
Marky.
Hiram Lodge, Marky
Daddy.
Mark. And I really just think it's because they couldn't bring him back in. Like
What do you mean?
because all the other parents are pretty much back. Like if you think about it, Penelope's back,
But
we
why
have
can't they bring
Alice back.
Marisol?
I mean, we saw how that went with season 6. Like, she was barely in it to begin with. Like, she didn't have a story.
I
Doesn't really
guess.
have a story without
I
Hiram.
guess.
And like, because Hiram was such a villain the entire time, him coming in as a new character, like as a character without having like that grandiose gravitas that he has and he's carried through the entire show pretty much, like it would be, I think, a bad
So
opportunity for them to have him. So they're just like, he's in LA. You
I
know
just
what I
no, I
mean?
just really so I think Mark does he is gonna sort of appear in this season at some point.
Is he
I
really?
saw there was pictures of him on set and he was like, thank you, whatever,
Oh,
whatever. So I do think he's gonna do like at least an episode.
that's
Anyways,
exciting.
so what I was saying was I just didn't understand like everyone else's story really, really still remains what we
The
originally know.
same.
Like, Betty's parents, they live in Riverdale, they own like the TV, whatever,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and Fred passed away, and but hers was like completely different. Like,
yeah,
my parents
yeah,
are actors, we live in LA. Like, there was no New
yeah.
York reference, which I
No
thought
New
was
York
so unusual
reference.
because like it would still make sense. Like, New York is like still this sort of
Yeah,
chic, like glamorized area,
right.
but there were so many references to Hollywood and like old Hollywood. I was like,
Mm.
is this the only reason why they gave her this weird backstory? Like, I just didn't get why it was so different.
Yeah, and then even like the James Dean references and pulling that
Yeah.
story in, like it is a weird, that is a good point.
And
Like
then like
why go that way with it? I
why
don't
go that
know.
way? Unless later on they're gonna talk about that. But like
Yeah.
even like her parents owning the Pembroke, like why would they own that? Like
In
did they
Riverdale.
used to live in
Yeah.
Riverdale? Like she didn't explain that.
No, that's a really good point because a part of her origin story is the fact that her parents were from Riverdale,
Yeah.
and that is the reason why she ends up back there again once her dad goes to jail.
Yeah.
So the fact that she's there just because like her parents exiled her, which we'll get to in a minute, it
I
doesn't
just
it
didn't
doesn't
get
really
it. I
track
just
for
didn't
me.
get it. And
No,
I'm
yeah,
wondering
it's
if
true.
anyone else thought the same. Maybe they'll explain that later. There is a scene later that I do want to talk about, but yeah, I
Yeah.
just didn't understand why at this point. Why are they changing her story so much?
Maybe they think that they can play with a little bit more, like with this
That's
story. Like it's new,
yeah,
it's different. Like at least one of the characters gets something that's like moderately different, so they can play with this like new character that's
yeah.
just
I
coming
thought the
into
same.
town with a
Yeah,
new vibe. I don't know. And
yeah.
maybe New York was not as poppin' as LA at that time. Like maybe it was the place and thing to talk about at that time. I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Anyways, so when she comes in, Archie is his jaw is like down on the floor. He's like drooling over Veronica right away.
He was
And
so
Cheryl's having
cute.
these
He was like
like,
giggling and like
yeah,
I
he was
freaking
really
love
cute.
Cheryl. Madeline, like she just like controls that scene. Like she's like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah.
And she's like
She
looking
was
at Archie
over
like,
it.
don't you dare smile. And he was like,
Yeah.
they were just so
Yeah.
cute.
It
Like
was
really.
so cute. It was so cute. And I guess this episode we don't really know anything about their relationship with each other because I
Yeah.
thought that they were going to go into that. We all saw the
Yeah.
trailer and it
Yeah.
seemed that they had some sort of connection, whatever. I think that at some point in time they're going to get married or there's a proposal or something.
Really?
Yeah, I think that that's what it was. Like they were
Oh, I didn't.
arranged to get married. I
Oh.
think that was said in the trailer as far as I
Oh,
remember.
okay.
Anyway, if that isn't the case, they weren't even really talking this episode. So, outside of her kind of just giving him dirty looks and giving Veronica dirty looks. So Cheryl's pissed. And then it cuts to, I guess, a brand new intro card. You get like the Riverdale and the old school
Yeah.
Letterman writing
Text.
instead
Yeah.
of like the block letters that we usually are used to. And then cuts to the lounge. So this is when we kind of have everybody together for the first time. Veronica's talking to the group.
Again, there's really, guys, this episode was done so well. There's really cute, funny moments. And this was another one where like they're all sitting, like Julian and Archie are like on the same couch, and then like Veronica's like, "Can I sit?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And like they like open
Yeah,
the area for
yeah,
her, like because Cheryl was like, "No,
right.
there's no room for you." And they're
You
like,
know what's funny? Now that we're talking about it, because Julian does seem to be this like kind of like foil to Archie this season so far. Like, I mean, it's only been one episode, but like clearly they seem to be like a bit of rivals
yeah,
in that scenario. In the original comic books, it wasn't Jason, it wasn't Julian, it was Reggie. And like his absence is now made even more
I don't get
obvious,
it.
knowing that they are kind of making him the rival to Archie
Yeah, like why
instead of
wouldn't Reggie
Reggie.
be that character?
Like, how is
Mind
Reggie going to
you,
be introduced into this
I
world now? Like, is he
know.
just going to show up and be like, I like the banter that they had, like him and Reggie and Archie,
Yeah.
like having that kind of rivalry with Veronica. We never really even got that, like to its fullest extent as you would in the comic books. So the fact that it's going straight to Julian, we're just like, I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting choice.
I wanted to ask you this, but like overall, like I kind of like loved Julian's character. Like
Yeah,
I kind of was like, did we miss? Did we spend 6 seasons and not have Cheryl's brother legitimately in the show, like as this sort of twin counterpart to her?
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like loving the moments, not that we got a lot, but like what they had was really funny to see.
yeah.
And I was kind of like, damn, like should we have had this character all along? But to your point, like if he's just gonna rival like Archie, then he's kind of like a Reggie at that
He's a
point,
Reggie.
right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So I don't know, but I don't know enough about him to really make a judgment just yet. Because
yeah. And I'm
again,
just
like
curious
right now,
why?
yeah,
Why is he here?
he right now he's a replacement to Reggie, and I like Reggie more because I have an attachment to him. So
100%, like
he's
Charles
cool.
Melton is the best, but I also don't understand why he's replacing Jason. Like, why
Yeah,
didn't the actor who plays Jason act in this in the
yeah.
time?
I feel like that might be answered as well. Maybe they just wanted to shift
Maybe
it, and
maybe the
maybe
actor
Jason
wasn't
was.
available.
Yeah, or maybe they were just like, let's just make Jason a completely like not talking character. Like he talked for like one episode last season and now he's like back to not even existing. So
Mm,
cool.
yeah.
Anyway, we learn a little bit more about Veronica. She's talking to the group. You find out that James Dean was possibly bi and she had kind of like a little thing with him. And the entire time Kevin is like
Yeah, he's
perked
like,
up and
oh,
like paying very close attention. He's like, "So you're telling me that he has sex with men as well?" Like, obviously, okay, we get it. We get it, Kevin. We get it. Like, even in the 50s,
as if we thought anything different. As if we thought he was gonna be like lit in the 50s.
I anyway, I did not have my hopes up, so it's okay. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Anyways.
So then we get a quick cut to science class. Jughead is, it's funny
Oh, this
because
was good. Yeah.
if I was Jughead in this scenario,
Yeah.
he has had 2 days of being in this past world all by himself, realizing that no one knows shit. Why the fuck am I sitting in a class until for an hour
I'd be
learning
like
about
going and
science?
inventing like TikTok and like cell phones and like I'd be like, yes, make my money and leave this town.
Put those stocks in Apple. Like, I don't know. Like, what are you gonna do? But anyway, his teacher comes up to him and he's like, "Hey guys, don't forget we're building that telescope for Bailey's comet." And then Jughead remembers that, you know, Bailey's
like,
comet that came.
What? Bailey's comet?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it didn't happen yet?
Exactly. So apparently though, it doesn't show up for another 2 years. So we don't got 2 years. We only got one more season, girl.
You guys only got one season left.
What you gonna do?
So that made me sort of perk up, and I was like, okay, what's the significance between like behind the 2 years? Like, why is he saying 2 years? Like,
unless it's gonna be something similar to what happened at the end of last season, where it's like, oh well, now Bailey's comet is accelerating faster, and it's like not gonna be in 2 years, it's gonna be in 2 months. You know what I mean? Like, something like that's gonna happen. Who knows? But yeah, we find out that there is a Bailey's comet, and maybe that is the connection then that Jughead's really excited to hear about.
Like, who's Bailey? Like, I want to know.
Who is she? And then it cuts to Archie asking Veronica if she wants to walk home with him, and Veronica's like, "Do I look like someone who walks?"
Walk in these shoes.
And Julian is the one that decides to take her home.
Julian's obviously got the ride.
Yeah, and then Cheryl's like, "What the F? Like, how about me?" And he's like, "You can walk home, bitches." It was very Mean Girls moment. Like,
oh my god. So savage.
Then it cuts to Tony and Betty talking to the principal, and there's like a random psychologist. So really quickly, I need to ask you this because I didn't do enough digging before we got into this podcast, but is this, they like did like a close zoom in on this psychologist? Like, are we supposed to know him as a character from the series? Like,
oh my god,
is
I didn't even notice that.
Another character? Like, I thought it was like, oh, it's Dr. Curdle Jr. It's not Dr. Curdle Jr., but like, is he someone else? Like, is he the teacher from Jughead's old school? You know what I mean? Like, is he the principal from Jughead's old school? Like, I don't know. They made him seem like he was like significant, and he kind of looked familiar, but all white old men look familiar to me, so I don't know.
Wait, now I kind of want to see who it is.
But anyway, they shut, like, as you're looking that up, they shut down the whole story. They say that it's too jarring, the story and the report about Emmett Till.
He does look familiar.
Doesn't he? Kind of?
Yeah.
Like, anyway, I hope that our rewinders can tell us if he's significant at all. Maybe he is not, and I'm just like, oh, cool. Maybe I saw you in a TV show once. But he says that it's too disturbing to talk about Emmett Till. It's like gonna like mess up the kids or whatever.
Dude, do you think that could be like Percival back in the day?
Starting some shit over there now with this guy? Maybe. I mean, one thing that possible that we haven't really talked about yet, and maybe we can talk about at the end as well, but like there is no villain. There's no villain that we see in the story just yet, outside of history. I would be okay with that. History is the villain. History is the villain. No, but that's such a good, like, that is what it is, right? That is the villain, yeah. But
yeah, like, I don't know. We could talk about this at the end. Whereas Percival, is he actually dead? Like, is he actually gone? Like, we don't know.
Right, exactly. So then it cuts to Betty at home with her parents. She's having dinner. She's at the table. She asks her parents if, you know, they read Tony's article, and they kind of skirt around it. They're like, oh, yeah, we kind of read it. Like, yeah, cool. But Betty's like, okay, well, you talk on the radio. Like, are you going to talk about this story on air and read it? And both of them are like, I don't think so. I only have 15 minutes. It's owned by the Blossoms. Like, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Sponsors. Our sponsors are not down for that. You know, just another without getting too deep, like just another look at what sort of what the media controls and what narrative the media wants you to listen to. Just, you know, a very sort of good throw to that.
And this is the first time, I mean, not including Mary because she's in and out half the time, but this is the first time that we see a parent that we've seen since season 1. Are you okay with seeing Alice as a waste woman once again?
It's funny that you asked that. I think at this point we have seen that already. So for me, I don't care anymore. Like, it's to me, it's not like her character was nothing last
Yeah.
season.
Yeah,
So to
exactly.
really go from that to this, I'm like, hey, what were you doing anyways? It's
Yeah.
not like her and like there was phallus.
Right. That
What happened to
does not exist.
phallus?
That feels like so distant,
It was like
like
a
far,
different
so
show, man.
different show, different time. Oh gosh. Anyway,
Anyways, that's when it was good.
so yeah, they don't do anything. Then it cuts to Archie fixing up his car, talking to Jughead, and as he's fixing it up, Jughead's trying to like rack his brain, being like, "How do I get these guys to remember?" And then Archie says something about his dad's hammer, and Jughead remembers that he put it into the time capsule way back when, before the time jump last
Like, you
season.
only have one hammer, bro.
I know. I'm like, okay. um, and he's like, maybe if the time capsule's there,
Yeah.
we can use that. I can use that as like evidence to tell them like we're in the future or whatever.
Yeah.
So he does go to the football field, he digs it up, and he does find it, but someone is watching him from the shadows.
Lurking in the shadows.
So that was a mystery that I was excited about, but then it gets cleared up right away. Next day he brings them all in to talk about this box. He shows them the box, but they think that it's like all fake. He tries everything. This poor guy.
The way the guy set it up, it was all wrong. First of all, like, he should have set it up
like,
way better.
This is how you do it. Yeah.
He's like, you were an FBI agent. Serial killers? Oh, that's not even a thing yet. You were you owned a casino. You did this, Kevin. You did this, and everyone's like, what? Like, that's not believable at all.
The best one was Kevin's when he was basically like, so Kevin, you were just like around and then you joined a cult.
Because they were basically like, okay, if you know the future, like, tell us about the future, like tell us things.
What's the tea?
And so he went around being like, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, and he got to Kevin, and Kevin's like, do me, and then he's like, oh, he's like, you literally like did nothing, and like you joined like a cult that like 8 people, and he was like, yeah, that sounds like me. It sounds like even then he was like proud. He's like, yeah.
He's like, call. God, I
felt like in that moment the writers were making fun of themselves and like the show itself, and so I was like, okay, I'm down for this. Like, it's
you gotta make fun of yourselves at that point, because like the storylines you gave him were.
But anyways, they don't end up believing him because he sounds crazy.
He sounds crazy. Yeah, then Archie pulls him aside and he's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this is like what you're saying, it doesn't make any sense. We are in the 50s. You need to chill out. Like, life is good. And going back to what you were saying, like, life is good. Everything's fine for you, the white man.
He does say, I know. But he does say, he's like, it might not be perfect, but it is what we have. Like, it is what it is.
Life.
And I think a lot of people at that time probably knew that there were things wrong for sure. Like, they were like, but this is the world that we have, and this is the only one. So like, what else are you gonna do, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then now Jughead's kind of like stuck back to square one. He doesn't know what to do, how to talk to these people. Then it cuts to Betty and Tony talking about the images that were taken from Emmett Till's funeral by his mom. And, Tony's saying how they were so graphic. They were in this, newsletter that they put out. And Betty like gets this like intrigue about it. She's like, I want to see them. I'd like to see them.
Yeah.
For a second, and this isn't the case, but for a second, I thought it was going to attach to the fact that she is into serial killers.
Yeah.
Is that what you were vibing to?
No, I didn't. No. But I could see where you were going. Like, the thing is, this show always does this. They pull out what's happened before, or like the connections of these characters before, but this episode really didn't do any of that. Like, Veronica wasn't this like business savvy girl, like Archie wasn't this like war fighting, like there was really no connections to those previous characters that like we know. So yeah, but I knew what you're gonna get at.
Yeah. So anyway, so she's intrigued. She wants to see these images. Then it cuts to the blossom. Sorry,
before the next thing, but what stood out to me here, and what's so crazy, is that this week, after the shootings that happened at that Nashville school, there was a lot of discussion about, because they leaked the camera footage, right, from like the cops and stuff, so you're able to watch it. Things were obviously censored and stuff, but there was like this huge discussion online. They were like, take these videos down, and like you can't be showing, because like you could see there was something there. They were like, don't show this, like, and people were like, no, we should be freaking showing the reality of how disgusting this country has gotten, and how the reality, like, this is what it is. And if you can't look at it and you can't face it, then this is never gonna end. Like,
this, yeah, that's a part of the problem, that
and there's
you're not able to like humanize the tragedy,
the reality of what
that
it
people are
is
facing.
Yeah, and it's
true.
so crazy that there's like,
I mean,
this
but at the
connection.
cost of the privacy of like families who've lost their kids, like,
Of
that's
course.
the hard part, obviously.
Of course.
But it's true. It's like
But in this
the side of
case-
it that's like, ignore, do not see it,
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about, like, completely dehumanizing
Oh,
the
you're
entire
too scared
situation.
to look at it, or it makes you uncomfortable. Oh,
Like-
sorry, someone's,
you know what's
kids
uncomfortable,
just
like
died.
getting shot. Yeah, exactly.
So
It's
and that's what they're trying to say. And in this scenario in Riverdale with him, the mother was okay with releasing those photos, right? Like, the mom was like, do it, because she knew and she understood that, like, people seeing it and having that like visual experience, like, it's gonna affect a lot more
Shake 'em
people.
up. Yeah,
So in that
yeah.
sense, like, she obviously consented to that. It wasn't like someone went against her.
Right,
But
right.
just really interesting, like, connections to,
So like what's happening now.
happening to this
Yeah.
day.
It's, and which is fucking terrible.
I never thought Riverdale would get this real.
I know, like, dark. So then it cuts to the Blossom residence. Penelope is back, and that's all I wrote down. Penelope's back. I'm very excited about it because I love Natalie Bolles.
It was like toned down this episode.
Yeah, she was like, hello children, here's some magazines. And I guess that is what we catch is Cheryl reads the cover of the magazine, and Natalie Wood is on it, starring in Our Town, which is I guess, is it the Broadway play or the movie that Veronica
like
said that she was in. So then it cuts to Pop's diner with Archie and Veronica trying to like catch up and talk to each other. First, right off the top, cute. I want these onion rings, like,
me too. I said this, I was like, God, I want onion rings right now.
I'm craving onion rings so bad right now.
Okay.
So she's obsessed with onion rings, and then she's like, tell me about you, like, what's your whole story? And he doesn't say much more than
yeah,
I'm a football, like, I love football, and I love my car, and I like to swim. The end.
And she's like, I go to the Sweetwater River. She's like, do you skinny dip, I hope? And he's like, wink, no. Wink. And she's like, oh. So this scene is so interesting to me because, and I loved it so much because, again, like, throwing back to that first episode where it's Archie and Betty sitting in the booth, and like they're having a conversation, and then Veronica walks in, and like here starts this whole thing. But in this moment, they're sitting and they're talking, and the close-ups were so cute, like they were so like into each other. But she says, she's like, oh my God, these onion rings are like from this place in Hollywood. And he was like, what? And she's like, don't you know, like the actress,
the chain,
I forgot her
or
name,
whatever, yeah.
The famous actress. He's like, I don't know who that is. And she's like, oh. And in that moment, I'm like, are we supposed to, like, are they sort of alluding to the fact that these two people are very different? Like really,
even in the 50s,
yeah,
they're so separate.
They're so different.
They're so different. She looks at him, she's like, wow, what a basic boy. Like, I don't even know anything about this. And then he even says,
he's like, I like sports and cars. She's like, okay.
She's like, great. So, I know James Dean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
like, so why would you be interested in this?
I didn't know what I was gonna take from it. I'm like, do you guys like each other more now, or do you like what happened here?
So good. Outside of the fact that they obviously have some sort of instantaneous chemistry, they don't have anything relatable to connect with, which has been their issue probably since the beginning.
100%. And I think like all these VARCHIE shippers will come here and say, no, that's not true. But even the way he says it in the beginning, he's like, it felt like a lightning bolt, right?
Yeah.
Which is so cute. Like, that's amazing. But then when you actually like break it down and like they're talking about things, like they're just so different. So I didn't know how to take it. I was like, are they positioning us to go into another VARCHIE ship moment? Or are they positioning us to be like, no, they're really different people? I didn't know which way it was gonna go.
That's an interesting take, because if we're supposed to assume that by the end of this series, and I'm assuming that this is gonna be the case, because if it doesn't end this way, then I would be extremely disappointed, that we end up back in the future.
Yeah.
Are we going to be cool and fine with whatever relationships we were left with at the end of season 6? Like, are we going to be good with Veronica being with Reggie kind of and not really?
I feel like Veronica and Reggie are endgame.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I mean, they were off by the end of the season.
I think they were.
But like, even like Betty and Archie, she's dating Kevin. Like, I don't even see
Yeah.
a storyline in the
And there was
1950s where they're gonna
nothing.
even
Yeah,
connect,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Like he doesn't even once say, "Oh, me and Betty were like, like sweethearts back in the day." Like he
Yeah, we're
doesn't there's no
neighbors.
inkling of that. And
Nothing.
usually that's the
Yeah.
narrative that we get with
Yeah.
them, but there was none of that.
None of it. So, and I don't know. I want to hope that they're going to lean in really hard on this like gay secret gay guy storyline with Kevin and
Yeah.
Betty. But again, how far do you take that
Yeah.
in the final season before we get to wherever we need to go with the characters? I don't know. Anyway, I have lots of
Lots of
questions happening.
questions, but I'm down to see a veggie ship that's not toxic because all we've ever really seen
Yeah,
them is really like the sex is amazing and that's it, but then that's it. Or they're
right,
like trying to kill each other and like scam each other out of like whatever money. But
right.
like I'm down to get a moment with Veggie and like actually see them like be an okay relationship because I do feel like they could work, you know?
They worked for a minute and they were doing so
Yeah.
great, and then they kind of it turned
True.
into
Yeah, like
something
yeah.
bad. But
Anyways, yeah.
anyway, we'll get into that, I'm sure, by the end of the season. But Cheryl walks in to the Pop's diner and she basically like publicly announces that Veronica's been a liar this whole time. Natalie Wood is starring in Our Town, not her. Like, she's been a liar this entire time. Then it cuts to the Pembroke. Veronica's crying and Archie's like consoling her, and she says like she's right. Like, Cheryl is right. I am not starring in anything. I did get banished by my parents to
Mm.
Riverdale. And really she makes it really, really deep. She's like, I've always been a problem. It seems like I've been a problem since I was born. And I'm like, okay, but like, why do they hate you so much? Like, I don't like, I can't imagine that her
Yeah.
parents hate her for no reason.
Well, the
Like,
accident.
but I mean, the accident, but that was even before. She says like since I was
Oh,
born, she's been a problem. Like, she's been in the
yeah.
way. And then
That's
she
so
says
weird.
like their real baby is the show, like the show
Right.
that they created.
Right.
So I'm like,
Which, by the way, I did a quick Google. So I don't know why this like caught my attention, but when she was like, they shipped me off in a private plane and now I'm here. And I'm
mhm.
like, private plane in the 1950s?
Like,
Hold on a minute. Let me pull up Google. Private planes did not exist in the
ah!
1950s. So y'all
They just had
writing
to
this
get her into the air
episode.
again.
Yeah, like the
Helicopter.
accuracy. The
Yeah,
accuracy. I don't know
the
why. I just
accuracy
thought
in
that that was so
Riverdale.
funny because they've tried to be so true to the time in this whole episode, and I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right.
Like,
And then I
private
like
jet
Googled
plane,
it, and I'm like, no. Anyways,
not lies.com.
little tidbit right there.
Yeah, she talks about the fact that like the real like the inciting incident of her coming into town was because she was like a part of James Dean's clique and she wasn't in the car
Again,
during
I
the
don't get this James
accident.
Dean obsession. Like, I
I
don't get
don't
why
get
we
it
keep referring
either.
to him.
But maybe
Like,
it's to the point where you were saying it's very Americana. It was very
I
like of that
guess.
time. But like, okay, cool. Like,
I
fine.
guess,
I don't know.
yeah. And like,
Like,
was
people
his
are obsessed with
accident
him.
like Princess Diana level? Like, is that
I
what we're supposed to
guess.
feel? Like, the
I
whole country felt it and like everyone was shooketh?
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I mean, every woman probably in the world was like, "Oh God, this
You
young
know?
man."
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like
Yeah, I
Elvis or
don't know.
something. Yeah.
Um, so she kind of talks about her tea, whatever, but also like it doesn't really give me much to like grip into with her character in
Nothing.
this
No,
world.
nothing.
Anyway, if Hiram slash Marcus Willis does show up at some point, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that relationship because we know how deep they went with the relationship for the last 5 seasons with them together. In this time period where they're like, what is he gonna say? Like, yeah, I don't really love you. I really love
Dude,
the show.
how
Like,
is your solution to your daughter
yeah,
behaving badly, sending her off to a random town
by
to live
herself.
in a hotel by herself and go to a regular public school? Like she's not even going to like a boarding school or like a disciplinarian school. Like
Yeah,
how is
yeah.
that the solution to this problem? This
I
made
don't
no
know.
sense to me.
I don't
I
get it.
wish there was more. I wish she was like my parents were born here, so then like they sent me back here to go with my abuela. Like what something like
Right.
her story
Yeah.
made zero sense.
0 cents. 0 cents. But anyways, Anyways, it's Riverdale.
Whatever. Keep going.
So then it cuts to the Andrew's residence, and Mary is awake after he comes back from the Pembroke, and she's mad at him. She tells Archie, "You're grounded for taking the car." And then it's like another, like, we're just layering this James Dean
like
storyline
with the car, like
car and the accident. I'm worried because your dad died, and I don't want to lose you. And I get it. It's a part, like, that is all the Andrews have at this point, is the fact that they lost Fred, and you know, she's trying to hold it all together. But are they gonna give her more? Probably not. I don't know. I just don't want to hear Mary say one more time, like, do not drive that car, because he doesn't listen to her anyway. Like, by the next episode,
it was
driving
cute
the
though
car.
when they like came to, like, when she's like, speed, like, she's like, make your like car slower,
like,
when they were like bargaining. I was like, they're cute.
Miles,
they are cute together, like, really.
They are cute. There's some good moments. Sure. So then it comes back to the Pembroke, and Veronica's watching her parents' show. She's watching her show, her parents' names come up, and then it says Tilly Temple is playing Little Ronnie, and she goes, bitch. I died.
And that's obviously like a note to like Shirley Temple, I guess.
Shirley Temple, like, yeah. But I was just like, it's just such a random thing. And I'm like, are we gonna see Tilly Veronica. Temple? Like, is she gonna show up in Riverdale?
So Veronica.
So funny. And then she gets a call from her mom, Hermione, and apparently somehow
was it Marisol Nichols on the other end? I couldn't tell.
It did sound like Marisol Nichols, but it was like, but she sounded like a 1950s version of her.
Yeah.
Like, hello, daughter. Like, how are you? I mean, she wasn't British, but you know, she had like a more she had a more peppy sounding voice.
Hello, daughter.
Yeah. But apparently she knew that Archie showed up at the Pembroke, so like, I guess they're watching her. They're keeping an eye on her.
The streets are watching.
The streets are watching. Girl,
where's the butler guy? He's probably there somewhere.
Yeah,
Smithers.
Smitty.
His name would be Smitty in the 50s.
Yeah. Hey, Smitty. And then she hangs up. She's like, sorry, gotta go. She asked about Thanksgiving, if they're gonna show up. And she's like, oh, your Uncle Orson just arrived. I was like, Orson Welles? Like, is there a connection there?
Oh my God. I can't with this name dropping. Like, I was Googling everything. Like,
yeah, I was like, but I wasn't even sure if that was even a connection. Who knows? Because Orson Welles was not Spanish, so like, maybe that isn't the case.
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So then it cuts to Betty in her room, and she opens up this article of Emmett Till, and she sees all the pictures, and she tells Tony, she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize like how terrible this was. Like, she knew, out of all the people in Riverdale, she's the only one who really knew, but now she like knows how bad it was.
Yeah.
And she really, really, really wants to help Tony read a poem on the morning announcements. They're like, okay, if we can't publish a story, let's try to find a way to like get this message out. So I like that, the fact that like she persisted and wanted to do this for Tony. So then it cuts to Jughead and Tabitha talking randomly. Like, she shows up in the hallways, and she says that she's planning to leave Riverdale to do a tour with her parents to support Emmett Till's parents, who are doing a tour to talk about this terrible incident. And Jughead's like, okay, so you're leaving. And I don't know about you, but I got really sad for a second.
I thought
because I'm like,
yeah,
are they canceling Tabitha? Like, is she not going to be in the rest of the season?
I was like, there's no budget for her. She's gone.
Is this her exit off the entire show? Is like, that's a wrap on Tabitha? Like, I got so nervous. And still, I don't know if that is going to be the case. Because she doesn't show. Anyway, we'll talk about it at the very end. But like, I was sad about it, because it's like, once again, I want to make it about race because this is what it's about. You don't have any black characters. Josie has not even been mentioned. Okay, she was the first black character on your show, and she didn't even last long.
I wanted to wait a good 40 minutes before I mentioned the Pussycats, but I'm glad you were the first one to do it, because I was waiting for that.
100, right? Like, they should be there. And
where
also,
are they?
Where are they? And like, I don't want to like. Why are we waiting to like midway season to be like, ooh, we got a whole Pussycats episode? Like, why wait that long? Like, why isn't she there right now?
Pay everyone, but that's what it should be. Like, this season would make Where everyone
This
is
would have
there.
been a
Where are the
reset.
pussycats? Yeah,
Like that's
it's
the
a
thing. That's like
reset.
people are gonna be like, but where do they fit? Where does fucking Veronica fit?
Where does Julian fit? Like,
exactly
he's a new
like
character too.
that could have been an opportunity for them to say like the writers RAS to be like, Josie, come back.
Come
Like
back.
we want the
Yeah.
girls to come back. Like especially for this episode, especially for what they probably want to do for this season.
Yeah.
But praying and hoping that they're going to bring this in quickly, because like I said, I don't think this is the last time we're going to be talking about race on this season. I hope that's not the case, and I hope that maybe Josie's already on tour. Maybe she's like, I'm at every protest with my girls and we've been rocking it, and we're coming back to Riverdale to talk about it. We're going to do 7 concerts, and then we're going to like start some shit up.
I just have a bad feeling.
What?
Because I just feel like that scene that we saw when they were cheersing, I feel like that was the end of them. Like,
no.
I know. But to your point, like, if you really wanna get into this right now, like, I can get into it.
Do it.
Like,
let's do it.
The first black person on the show was Josie. Like, it wasn't Vanessa Morgan's character. She came in like season 3 or 2.
Season
like
2, yeah.
You know, so like if you're gonna go back to it, like bring Josie back. Like she's the original. Like I don't know. I just felt like I feel like something is missing, and I don't know if that's just because like logistically it doesn't work, like their schedules, they don't want to pay. Or maybe Ashley Murray
like had some like piping hot tea on like how she felt she was treated on the show. Like we don't really know how she felt about the ins and outs of her character on the show, how she felt like her character's storylines went. Maybe she didn't want to go through the reset of this all, and she was like, you guys are gonna fuck my character up even more. Like fuck that shit. You know, like I would be to know the truth. I would love to. Demois, are you on it? Get on it.
I wished. I can't. Yeah, like Demois would not. I'd be like, can I ask Demois like my Riverdale questions? And then she just wouldn't care. She'll be like, girl, I don't watch that show anymore.
She's like, no. But yeah, it's just an unfortunate. I feel like it's a very unfortunate situation to not see Josie where she would be in the 50s in the storyline, or find a freaking place for her. She's one of your only black characters. God damn it.
I honestly, I feel like what you're saying probably has a bit more truth to it. I feel like they were kind of cheesed at the way their characters were handled, and I can that's all I'm gonna say. I don't know, because I don't know what the truth is, but I feel like that's maybe
I mean, they might shock the hell out of us, and we might be completely wrong, and they might.
I will throw up if they come on back to my show.
I will be like, I am so sorry that I said that. I love you guys, and I'm sorry the writers for writing this, and you guys are amazing. But right now I'm a little upset about the fact that they didn't introduce Josie and the Pussycats, and they're also now removing Tabitha, who is one of the 2 other people of color on the show. Like fucking hell. So anyway, going back to all of this, now I'm off my soapbox. Like let's keep moving. But I want to know what people. But I would love to know how other people feel. Like Rewinders, let 100%. Us know what you think about this, because I know I don't want it to be a sticking point, but it's something where if you were a true fan of the show and watch it from the very beginning and know kind of the history of these characters, and even our comic book like lover,
remember that guy?
These are characters that should exist.
Who was that guy? The hot guy, the boxing guy? No, Clay.
No, Clay. Yeah. The one who like maple syrup Veronica Lodge.
No, oh him! Oh my god! Holy, you brought it back to the beginning.
I went all the way there. Yeah.
I'm talking about the guy that like was fighting with Archie. What was his name? Like,
oh my god, Mad Dog?
Was it Mad Dog?
I don't remember his like real name.
Yeah.
He was called Mad Dog.
I liked him. I loved his character so much.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. Like, it's already like you're literally going to the 1950s to talk about race, and you removed 90% of your colored cast. Like, I don't. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm going to say right now in this moment.
Right now.
But let's move on. Okay, so we're getting to the end. In the washroom, Tony and Betty go and talk to Cheryl and say, hey girl, can you please do this through the announcements? And Cheryl kind of just agrees. Like, it wasn't a contentious thing. It was interesting to see Cheryl a little sassy, but not like the turned up cherry bomb sassy that we love. And not that I want her to be this like roadblock for these girls or this particular situation, but I haven't seen the fire that we love and know.
Fire.
Yeah, where's the fire?
She's like a cherry. She's the cherry.
She's
But like
not
we
the
gotta get the
bomb.
fire.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I wanted to ask you was like I was kind of like waiting for the crumbs for like CHONI, but I didn't get anything.
Nothing.
Like there
Nothing. It
was
does
not
not
even like a
exist.
glance at Tony because in that scene they're sort of more an intimate conversation, and I was like,
Right.
okay, is it gonna happen now? Like is she kind of gonna look at her like, ah, yeah.
Like, I
There was
remember you. Yeah,
nothing. There was
nothing.
not. I was like, when are
Yeah.
they gonna, if they're ever going to go back to CHONI? Because I know the CHONI shippers, they were
They're
left
waiting.
very thirsty last season.
Very thirsty.
Like they did not give anything.
I mean, we had a sex scene. We had a
True.
sex
No,
scene.
yeah. Okay, like okay, but that was like because like she was under a spell or something, or
Yeah,
like
she wasn't
they
like
went
the
back in
real
time. It
CHONI.
wasn't like
Yeah, it
even the
wasn't
real
real.
CHONI.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see
So
what happens,
weird.
I guess, with that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Guys,
And it's
all the time jumping is like
I know.
really
I'm like,
painful.
fuck, what's happening right now? But that's a good point because they made a point to make sure that you know, we're gonna explore Kevin's sexuality. But the fact that they had more gay characters on the show, Cheryl, Tony, Fangs, where's Fangs? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like
I mean, I did miss him
it's an
so
interesting thing. Savage. So savage.
I was
And
like, no, guys, literally, I was like, the acting was so good this episode, and it really was. I was like, the acting was so good. I'm like, oh yeah, and
Like-
Fangs wasn't in it.
Who's missing from this scenario? What is the common denominator? And it's interesting that they haven't brought the serpents into this storyline. Isn't that the 50s like greaser storyline? Like,
and
I
even
don't know.
Tony looked at, she saw the jacket. She's like, I don't know what this means. Like, I don't know what this jacket is. Remember?
I don't know.
Like,
I'm just very interested to see how they're gonna slowly tie. Maybe they're gonna slowly tie things together. This is the first episode.
Yeah.
We are trying to bring as much grace as possible and patience, and hoping that they're
maybe
gonna
they'll show like the start of it, like how do those, because ultimately we're talking about where sort of the foundation and now where it ended, like where Riverdale ends or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll start to show like, oh, let's make a gang of serpents and let's do that, and that's how everything starts to unfold. And
right, and maybe that is, and yeah, to your point, maybe that is how it gets reshaped, because even in the past, like Tony was like, I don't want it to be about this, I want it to be about like social justice. And maybe that's what changes it in the future. Anyway, that's a good point. Good point. So then the girls enact their plan. Cheryl goes into the principal's office to talk and do like the announcements, but Miss Bell has to go help the principal because Tabitha fainted. So she's running to the office and she's like, you know how to press the button, whatever. Tony and Betty walk in as soon as she leaves, and she reads her poem by Langston Hughes. And it was a very really, touching, powerful, like it was a great moment. And to hear the words and to kind of, I know it's a little like melodramatic, but like just to like kind of see how people may have felt at that time, and I think continue to feel when something like this happens and they get opportunities to talk about these things as an open discussion. And because like I said, it's still happening to this day. This just so tragic.
Guys, I feel like I'm going like too real right now, but like just this week in Florida, they like a parent like basically was able to like abolish one of like Black History's like books that they teach like kids in like grade 8 or I don't know what grade. They were like, no, this is like too like real for like our kids, like we can't read it. And it's like everything starts with the kids and education, right? Like that's sort of where everything starts. And to hear this poem being said and they're all listening and it's so powerful. And then especially to know that just this week in Florida, this shit's getting like taken down because someone's offended. Like this shit's still happening right now.
The censorship is unreal, and it's truly disgusting if you really want to get there with it. But yeah, it's across the board, just terrible things are happening in America. But it was a
beautiful moment, and I'm very happy they said the whole poem, like they said it all.
For sure. And as we're mentioning this does kind of incite a conversation around the death of Emmett Till, the murder of Emmett Till, and how people were feeling. and kind of having that discussion. And they like, she really does even say like, how are you feeling about it? What do you want to
I
know
love
about
this
it?
moment, and I don't know who that teacher was, but she's freaking amazing. And the fact
Yeah.
that she's opened that discussion for the students to say openly how they feel,
Yeah.
that's everything to me. And like that
And
was a really beautiful moment.
for sure. And I think it was really powerful to see how there was such a divide in even how they responded. Like, all the black students knew about the story and
Yeah.
how old he was and how violent it was and how terrible it was. And none of the white students knew. They were like, oh my God, he was 14 years old and what happened? And it was like there was this education of a side that was completely
Yeah.
ignorant, like
Yeah.
as we've been saying, to the realities and the tragedies of how America was at that time and still is.
Yeah.
And it was just an interesting way to display it. So kudos
100%.
to
Yeah.
how they put that all together. I loved
Yeah,
it.
I
It was
loved
great.
it. Yeah. And
But like I said, sorry, go finish what you were
Vanessa
saying.
Morgan's acting this episode was
Yeah,
freaking amazing, because
love her,
I think
love
sometimes
her.
like sometimes we get this like cheesy version of Vanessa Morgan, but
Yeah,
this episode, this girl freaking killed it. She
slayed
was so
it,
good.
so
And like I
good.
said, for a character that sometimes doesn't feel like a main character or like a main star because she's not the core four,
Yeah,
none of that matters. She is so powerful and she's so amazing on screen. Like
she
they're
stands
so
in her
lucky
own.
they had Vanessa Morgan, like honestly.
Absolutely, so good,
Because she's
so
not
well done.
just Shoni. She's not just Cheryl's love interest. She
Yeah,
surpassed that long time ago.
for
Like
sure. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think she showed so much of what the range of her character last season when she
yeah.
came in as like a
Yeah.
pregnant mother and
Like
had a
even Kevin
baby.
didn't
And
do that.
yeah.
I mean, you don't know, but like, you
Kevin,
know what I'm trying to say?
Kevin,
Like,
Kevin even did a like this much of it.
because
I don't
he
know.
was like in the original 5 or whatever, or 6 you want
Yeah.
to call it, and like he didn't even
Yes.
do that.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyways.
100%. And then of course, like we were mentioning earlier, the jarring juxtaposition of after, like right after this scene,
This
powerful,
seriously.
strong scene. So after commercial break,
And
you
they
cut
played
to
Blood on the
this.
Leaves too. I was like, whoa.
It
Did
was
you hear
like,
that?
what?
They played Blood on the Leaves.
Yes, strong, like
Yeah.
very, very strong. But then it cuts to Veronica leaving the classroom and
Freaking Veronica, man. Between her and Archie, like
I can't.
what do you stand for? Nothing.
What are you doing? So she walks out. She sees that she gets not one, but 2 people driving her home in cars, and she decides that she wants to walk. Wow, what a privilege! Like fucking, I can't even.
I wore my flats today. I'm gonna
like
walk.
once again, unrelatable content. I don't get it. I don't know. And then we get a final kind of sequence. Let's get to the end.
Oh
Pop's
my
Diner.
God, so good, so good.
Pop's Diner. Jughead's writing, and now he's like losing his mind because he's like, I don't know what the F I'm gonna do. This is happening. This is happening. Yeah. And Tabitha comes in, but she's like, she looks
her
all
hair is all like
flawless.
futuristic, like she looks like regular Tabitha, and he's like,
looks amazing.
Hey, I thought you were like, I'm like, can't you tell? It's like the old
can
Tabitha?
You see? Use your eyeballs. And she says, no, I am Tabitha from the future because I am the guardian angel of Riverdale. And she says that she cannot bring them home. He explains the whole situation. And we find
like, what happened that night? He's like, Bailey's comet came, like, didn't it, like, and she's like, no, like,
she's like, we did not survive. We did not win that war.
It was not okay.
We were all dead.
She said it was like extinction level. I was like,
oh, yeah. So everybody got blasted to hell. Yeah.
And then what did she say? Because then he's like, what, we all died? And she goes, no. She goes, we survived.
She like,
he was like, oh, okay. Because like when you said extinction, like it kind of sounds like everyone died.
Like everybody died. Yeah. Like that is like, what
no, we're all good. We're all good.
She's like, no, it's extinction level. It didn't mean like extinction. You know, like fuck. Okay, sorry. Like grammar
just
police.
Just before extinction. It was like that level.
One dial back. Yeah.
So what did she say? That she says she basically brought them to that world?
She used her powers to push them to a time where they can then ramp back up and get back into the future somehow. However, she needs to now go back and untangle all the things that have happened because they've twisted and bent all the timelines together.
What she was saying was she wanted to bring them back to a time where they could sort of rebuild the future, right? So that none of these old things could happen again. That's fine. Okay, but then he's like, okay, but can you stay with me and like he's like, but I know all these things, and he's like, it's driving me crazy, and like, and what does she
Right.
tell him? She was like, I'm gonna be busy.
So
So
I can't be here
I'm
right
gonna be
now.
busy like
I
untangling
gotta
these
go.
universes.
Yeah.
So basically,
So
yeah.
so she leaves again. Like, and that's the sad reality is like
But
she
what I thought was very interesting, she says to him, I have to erase your memory, and you need to go back to like not asking questions and not sort of like
become
inciting
basic
those things, because
Jughead.
it's gonna like fuck up the world basically, because
And it's gonna like make him
and
crazy
then make him go
essentially.
crazy. And I think what she says, because he's like, how did you find me? Like, how did you know I was here? And she's like, because you were asking questions, and like you went into like the memory box. She's like, I was able to find you like through the
The
universes,
timelines
through the
because you were
timelines.
being so annoying.
Because that was, yeah, but that was a question I was asking. I was like, okay, but how does she know he's in this one? And then so
Yeah.
they really did a great job with answering all the questions, and then like making sense of it all too, of like she needs to now go and like fix this all. Now what
Right.
she does say in the beginning of her speech was that she used up all of her powers and
Right.
what she had left to push them to that universe.
Right.
But what does that
But
mean to you?
I don't know, because also I'm just like, does that mean that she's dead, like officially? Like she's not gonna be in the future at all?
She
Like
says, whatever was left of my life force, I used to bring you guys here.
so she's
So
dead.
what I took from that is that she's dead.
She
She's
gone.
like an angel.
She's an
Yeah.
angel. She's
Like
gone,
a
girl.
literal angel.
Damn.
And
Which means that there's room for Bughead. Oh, oh no.
guys, when I really look at it, like I love Jughead and Tabitha together. Like
I
I
love them
love their
together.
chemistry. I love them. Like I love their scenes together.
Cause we got to talk about this final sequence. Like, oh my god, I was like,
Talk about it.
I was so sad. Well, for one, the final thing that she says is, "What you need to do, your mission in this world right now, is to bend this timeline toward justice.
Yeah.
That will help ground Riverdale and ensure that when we get to move to the future again, that we're not going back to some shitty shit. It'll be a better place." So I did like that. I was very happy with like the reasoning why they ended up in the 50s, and she's like, if you do this, then there's meaning, because it does, like I was saying, we have all these big moments and these things are happening, but we also have to remember that in the future, like none of this even matters, right? Like technically. But now that she's saying like, no, there is no world,
there's no
because
world
the
in the
world
future.
got effed up.
Yeah.
You now have to fix this and rebuild from there in order for us to get back to the future. So
But like the future's fault wasn't because of this. It was because of Percival, wasn't it?
no, yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the thing, and I feel like they covered, honestly, I feel like they covered a lot of this kind of vibe, this everything everywhere all at once vibe, like in that one episode with Tabitha. So I don't know, like I don't know. I'm not that I'm saying that I'm not down for it. I'm gonna want.
But I guess what they're trying to say
for it, but
in sort of in a bigger sense is like the reason those townspeople even got Percival and they like put him into a position of power and all of these different things, all of that was because that world was in such a bad sort of
such
way.
disarray. Yeah,
such disarray.
no,
I guess that's how you could see it too.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah, for sure. So she's like, I'm gonna have to erase your memory, and he's like, I'm gonna forget you, I'm gonna do this, and she was like, sorry boo, I gotta go. So she leaves, she gives him a final kiss. There's this beautiful moment where they're like,
it was
slow
so
motion
beautiful.
shot,
And his lips
was
were
just
so weird.
the light, the lens, like give me a lens flare and I'm done. A lens flare and a kiss, I'm out.
Oh god, and the filters and the music, oh my god,
and the freezing of time, like it was so sweet.
And then she like he freezes
and then she
like leaves.
Yeah,
I feel like that was it, Jayla.
I'm so sad. That was that's a wrap on Tabitha. Is that a wrap on Tabitha?
Not a wrap on Tabitha, because maybe we'll see her like in the end, like being like, I fixed it all, like I solved it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that ending was a beautiful ending for her. Yeah. Like in that light, and she kind of just walks off frame. Like that's a beautiful ending.
For sure. Really good though. Really like well done scene.
So then
really sad.
What happens at the end?
And so then by the end, he starts to realize, like as soon as she leaves, he still kind of remembers, but it's starting to fall apart.
Like, I gotta go write this down. Like
the thing that kills me is like, if he was that desperate, could he not just grab a fucking pen and paper?
Yeah.
He's like, I gotta get to my typewriter.
I gotta get to the typewriter. Freaking archaic, like one letter at a freaking time. probably like got jammed along the way. Like just quickly scribble
It's
it.
like bend, period, toward, period. That's not even
Semicolon.
a sentence, first of all. Just right, bend toward justice. Bend space toward space justice. Period. The fuck? Period. Anyway, so that's what he writes, and then that's when he finally
like, that's all I got.
And then he wakes up,
So
and then
pissed.
he's like, now he's the 1950s Jughead seeing these words on the page, not sure what it means. And also mysteriously, the beanie that was missing from the time, like the time capsule, is now sitting at his desk, and he's like, what is this material?
He was like examining it. He's like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
So what did you think of that? Who do you think put that there?
I don't know. I'm just gonna assume that it's all this like mystical magical pieces.
So Tabby was the one that was spying on him, right? Like she's the one that saw him in the field.
Yes. Yeah.
That was what it is.
Right.
So do you think she kind of like she had taken it before that, like taken the little beanie and put it there?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Or maybe
did Percival have his beanie?
I don't know. Do you? I mean, that's a question for you. Do you feel like Percival's a part of any of this? Right now? And do you want him to be?
I asked at Nancy River Drew, our girl from Twitter, because she made a comment. She made a comment about this, and I was like, "Girl, you gotta remind me because I don't remember. Did Percival have Jughead's beanie?" And she said, "Yes. He used it to disguise himself as Jug to access his mind." Right. So Percival 100 is in this universe, and he probably put that beanie there.
Oh my god! But why would he give it to him? Why wouldn't he just keep it?
Maybe it'd be like I'm still here, biatch. There has to be something alluding to Percival. There has to be.
I don't know. Honestly, can I ask you a question? So now this is the end. This is the end of the episode. That's the end of the episode. And this is a question for our rewinders as well. But season 1, take us back. Season 1 of Riverdale. Jason is missing. There's a murder. It's all mystery. It's all rooted in reality. Do you miss that for the final season? Do you wish that they came all the way back there instead of doing this very grandiose, very large, very huge undertaking to go to the back in time? Like they're still following like a supernatural-esque vibe to this, where like original season 1 it was literally rooted in reality, and now it's like not what it was before. And I guess that's just a testament to 7 seasons of a crazy show like Riverdale. But what do you think? Do you feel like would you have wanted like another serial killer storyline, some dark mysterious shit? Like that is the grit of Riverdale is what really pulled me in
100%.
And now we're at a place where like we love these characters and they're in this new place and it's bright and colorful, but it's not going to be, it doesn't feel like it's going to be dark in the same way that the other seasons were.
I will say I am so excited for this season, and I so love the message of what they are trying to say. And for a show that's for really teenagers and whatever, this sort of it gives them a purpose. And like I said before, I wish they had done this earlier, because I think the message is so important to sort of examine and look back at our history. I mean, as they are for Americans, to look back and say, why do we idolize this time in our history? What does it say about who we are today? How do we repair that so that we can move forward as like a successful, loving, open, inclusive society in the future? I think that message is so beautiful and so strong, and could have been the foundation of this show. And maybe it will be. Maybe there'll be some way that they wrap it all up, and maybe at the end, like this is all just Jughead's like writing, and like he's just writing all of this. And again, like the fact that this is called Don't Worry Darling, like something is making me feel like it's gonna be something like that. I don't know. I absolutely love the messaging. I hate that this is the end, because I feel like this could have sort of opened up doors for so many other seasons.
Absolutely.
And I was saying, like, guys, why weren't we talking about these things from before? Like, you're talking about freaking tree monsters, man, for one freaking full season.
But there was something that was crazy and wild that we were like, I don't know. I don't know which one.
But when you have a platform, like, you should talk about these things. Like, you're creating content for a younger generation who probably doesn't even know half these things. Like, you should write it. Now, having said that, things like Archie and Veronica give you that little bit of that funniness, and there can still be that. But that's the beauty of writing. I think if you're a strong writer, you're able to intertwine these lessons with like entertaining, funny, cute content. I think you can merge those two things together. I think you can.
It's possible. That's what I think. Interesting.
But
good take.
I do love the messaging. I have some questions before I
get into our roundups.
Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah, for sure.
I guess the first one we already kind of answered, which was like, why do you think they changed Julian and Jason? Like, I didn't understand that at all.
Still a big question mark
because he's so different. Like, he's so different from what Jason was.
Yeah, I mean, he talks for one.
Exactly.
He's obviously a lot more aggressive than Jason was. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's got to be something. We're going to be playing with these characters for the rest of the season, so I guess time will tell. We'll see what happens.
I think my other questions we pretty much answered, which was like Veronica's origin story. Like, I didn't understand why it was so different. Maybe to your point again, like they'll sort of get to that. And then like the ending, like, will Tabitha make it to the end? Do you want her to make it to the end?
Right.
Do you think that her purpose was all of this? Like, she truly is this guardian angel of Riverdale.
Yeah.
You know, is she meant to like, it'll be funny if like the first death happens like in the final season, an episode of like the show.
Right.
First main character death.
Yeah,
but,
it'll be interesting to see.
I don't know. The way she worded that, she said she used, the last of her life force. To me, feels like,
that's the end for her.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, yeah. God.
But anyways.
Tabitha.
Everyone loves Tabby.
Love her. She's the best. Yeah. She's such a great character, and she really brought something special to the show. So
yeah,
I hope that is not the last time we see her.
I mean, it's gonna be the last time anyways, because the show is done.
She's like, we're
whether or not, like, you know what I mean? Like, this show's
whether
done.
we like it or not, she's gone.
Yeah.
Are we ready to get into our recap roundup?
Let's do it.
Recap roundups. Best moment.
Okay, who's your best moment? What's your best moment?
Okay, so my best moment, it was so hard because I did feel like I enjoyed the entire episode, but my best moment was the Archie and Veronica moment in the diner, just because like one of my favorite moments was in the first pilot episode where like Betty and Archie are sitting at the diner and then Veronica walks in. And this kind of reminded me of that sort of like old school vibe, and what they're talking about, just like reintroducing themselves to each other. It was so cute,
Right.
So I chose that one.
It was cute. Minus the super, super close-up shots that made it look like we were 7 years older.
I'm so happy you noticed that too. I was like, I hope I'm not the only one.
And I know, I was like, I don't mean to be shady, but like, guys. My best moment is the reading of the poem about Emmett Till, by, is it Langston Hughes? Langston Hughes.
Yeah.
Like we were mentioning, such a powerful moment to watch, and just to hear the words and see how effective, little pieces like that could make change, right?
100%.
It's a poem, but it's so much more than that, right?
WTF moment.
WTF moment, I think for me, was like the ending at Pops, and like just like Tabitha explaining everything, because I was scared that like nothing was gonna make sense and like I didn't understand what was happening.
Right.
But then when you get that explanation, like honestly to me, like I loved it. I thought it all made sense. The fact that like Jughead again was like the one character that knew everything was freaking annoying me the whole time. I'm like, why is he always the one that like knows everything and like he sees beyond? And I love that they made it so that at the end she was like, I gotta like take away your memory, like you're not gonna know everything. So I like that, like it's like a blank slate for him now too. So
but like, is Tabitha gone? Anyway, we'll see. My WTF moment is not really a moment that we saw, but what we did not see, which is Reggie does not exist in this situation, in this world, in this episode. Literally one sentence was mentioned about him. Someone who is like a pretty big character.
Something's weird about that.
Feels just off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't like the way that it was introduced, and maybe it really just is boiled down to like scheduling, but I was kind of bummed by like
especially
the complete exclusion of him and Josie too.
Exclusion, and nobody mentioned him except for the one character that only knows him because of the previous universes, right? Like no one in this current timeline said, oh, by the way, Reggie's sick today. Like no one said that. And so that's kind of like making me feel weird. And I'm intrigued. Like I am kind of intrigued.
I'm intrigued, but I'm also like,
that's
what the
meant
fuck?
to be, or if it's just like he legit couldn't come to set, like he wasn't there. Like you know what I mean? Like they do shit like that.
MVP.
So my MVP, it's funny because someone else wrote and they're like, everyone was MVP, everyone was so good. But my MVP, I'm gonna give it to Tony for obvious reasons. And then I'm gonna give it to that freaking teacher that honestly, like, for me, everything starts in the classroom and education is the number one most important. And for her to like look at everyone and be like, what did you guys feel? Like, how does that make you feel? I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's huge, you know?
Sure,
and like teachers, I feel like in this show, like except for like guidance counselor Tony, like teachers kind of get like ripped on. Like Grundy, like, you know.
Grundy.
So
there was another random principal, Mr.
The principal's
Honeybee
always shady. So the fact that we get a really good teacher and she's kind of like you know,
and like she's not even significant. I don't even think she's gonna like. It's probably gonna be the last time we see her.
That's her only moment. I loved it. I really did like appreciate it.
It was nice to see like a teacher like open up the conversation and be like, let's have this conversation.
Yeah, and not be like, no, we can't talk about this. You know.
Yeah, for sure. My MVP, I couldn't decide because it's kind of connected. I'm gonna give it to Tabitha. She's literally untangling the entire universe.
Yeah.
Like shout out to Tabitha. Shout out to her character, the actress. Like love her.
Yeah.
She's beautiful and talented. And I did also kind of give it to Jughead. Even though he failed miserably at every attempt that he did, he's literally trying to make things happen. He's aware, very well aware of like what's happening in the world, and he wants to make change. And so I gave it to them. It
was hard to choose, honestly, because everyone really did
had
a lot of them
stories.
Did do something, right? So
except for Kevin.
Except for my LVPs right now, which I'm going to get into.
LVP.
My LVP, I'm honestly going to say Archie and Veronica, because the way these two stand up for nothing. Nothing.
Not
like,
in one storyline, not in one world.
Everyone is literally putting their life online, putting like their parents on the line, like saving the universe, untangling the universe. Like the way these two are just like, they want to fuck each other and she needs a ride home. Like that's their struggle in this episode. Like,
and he wants to use his car, but his mom won't let him.
I was just like, wow, like their uselessness is insane.
I don't know. That's what I mean. Like the relatability of them for the rest of the season is going to be a challenge.
Look, I'm sure Veronica will have a great, like they could make something good out of that, and I'm sure Archie will have a moment too, like he always does. But it was just funny how like everyone's like literally everyone's doing something, and like they're just like, how do I get home? Like my car doesn't work.
I want to date a girl. Yeah, it's just okay. You do you, boo boo. My LVP is gonna go to Alice, and we already talked about it, but like the exclusion of like how important the parents, I want to kind of wrap all the parents into this because it is a question that I have. The beginning of the series, the parents were like, the history of the parents were like was such an part of the storyline, and now, you know, even by season 5, season 6, like their storylines were completely unimportant, removed, RIP Phallus, etc. But now we're in this world where like they still exist. They were hired and they are paid actors on the show for this season. And seeing Alice in this character where she's just like, oh, I'm just an ignorant woman again. Like, I know. I was just a little bummed. I was just like, girl, really? Like, we're back here again? Like, with your character, like, you're not bringing anything new or different. Or like, and if this is going to be your arc, we've literally seen it at least literally 7 times.
So,
so I'm just a little bummed.
At least there was no Polly in there either. Like, I'm so over that family.
If she came back again, I'd be like, girl, really? Girl, really?
The best line.
What was your best line?
My best line is going to go to Jughead. because he had some good ones this episode.
Yes.
When he says, whichever genius said the 50s were the greatest decade of all time should seriously have their head examined.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
That is the T. What the F? You need to get your head checked. My best line is going to go to Jughead as well when he explains everybody's futures and he looks at Kevin and is like, Kevin, like you directed some musicals and you were in an organ harvesting cult. Like he like tries to like speed through that last little bit.
More stuff happened. You can be honest. Like you don't need to sugarcoat it.
But also like he probably didn't want to say like you were basically waste for the entire series, and then
it was funny because the sound was like that. Like when they were doing everyone else's sound was like whatever, and then when they got to Kevin, it's like
it was like bing, 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 bong,
yeah,
bing,
like
bong. Yeah,
like funny, like
awkward.
No one takes them seriously.
So funny. So good.
Okay, let me do some
listener roundups.
Listener roundups. Okay, Sierra N, our girl. Sierra N. Okay. Best moment. The poem Tony read. It was such a beautifully done scene, and Vanessa was spectacular this episode. Honorable mention to when Jughead tried to convince the gang they traveled back in time. Funniest scene Riverdale ever. Plus the Jabbatha reunion. It was so sweet, and it reminded me that I'm actually hardcore rooting for them. I know, it's true. Like, they are cute together.
They are. They really are.
WTF moment when Jughead forgot at the end and all he typed out was bend towards justice. It was such a dark ending for the episode, and it was sad to see Jughead forget everything because now they basically all have to hang tight and vibe until Tabitha does her thing. Gotta
vibe. Just vibe.
Also, the moment when Tabitha reveals that the comet did hit, because I wasn't expecting that at all and thought it was a cool twist. So it leaves me very concerned about getting back to present day and what that means for season 6 development, as I think season 6 had some really strong character and relationships, so it would suck to see that all get erased. I don't think that's what they meant. Like, they're not going to erase what happened in season 6. I think it's just about like getting back where that ended. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
MVP. Everyone will say Jughead and Betty and Tabitha, Tony. Just like everyone. So I'll say Veronica. She was so fun to watch this episode, and it really brought back to season 1 Veronica, which is my favorite V. I like what they are doing with her character. I thought that was really like it was season 1.
That's a cute take.
Very cute take.
I'll take it. Yeah, for sure.
LVP, either Principal Featherhead or Archie. Both really annoyed me this episode, but I'm also kind of over VARCHIE. Like, this is the 6th time that we are doing it, and I'm kind of over it.
Yeah.
Best line. Kevin, you directed musicals and we're in an organ harvesting call. I love that they pointed out how little he's done this whole time.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And there's one from Marina. Best moment, Betty, Cheryl, Tabitha, and Tony working together. Tony reading the poem. WTF moment, Jughead, Beanie appearing. Percival, send it to him? Question mark. See? MVP, Tony. LVP, the principal. Best line, Kevin, you directed some musicals and we're in an organ. That is the line of the week. Oh my god. There's some on Twitter too. Hold on, let me find it.
Okay. Who we got?
Okay. Oh, okay, we have some here. Okay. Choni 5 on it. Oh my god.
Shout out.
Choni 5 on it. Choni and Betty working together was her best moment, I guess. Tabitha, WTF moment, Tabitha wiping Jughead's memory and learning that they didn't actually stop the comet.
Yeah.
It was. I was like, whoa, I thought that was
again,
happened.
For sure. It's
yeah.
Like we didn't do anything.
Tony MVP, she really was the star, really did her thing, so we're proud of her. And then LVP, Julian, and the principal, like, go away.
Get the fuck out of
Best
here.
line, Tony is it?
Tony is it.
Is it? I don't know where that's from.
I don't remember that one either.
Martin, it's Marta K. Tabitha and Jughead end scene was the best moment. WTF moment, Julian instead of Jason. Why? Yeah, seriously, why? MVP, Betty for helping Tony. LVP, Julian, he had few lines and I already hate him. Best line, Archie is trying to get me committed to the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. Poor Jughead. Like, no, he wasn't, but he wasn't.
Yeah, I know.
He just said like, bro, calm your roll. Like you're gonna go crazy.
And then he's like, you think I'm crazy like those people?
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
I think that's it. And then we also got like some side commentary from some fans. So guys, you guys are so helpful because I had so many effing questions and you guys answered them. So thank you guys for always answering our questions because we are confused AF. But that was the first episode. Oh my god.
That is the first episode. And Envy, before we finish off, I feel like it's only right and fair to ask you one last question. Are you ready? And this is for our listeners and anyone who's watching us live. I want you to type it in the chat right now. This is a question for everybody. Type it in, okay? Final season. Final episode. I'm gonna pull a Riverdale and fast forward us to the final episode of this season. Final episode of this entire series.
Let's say it right here.
What do you want to see that
like the final
scene to be?
I think it has to be in Pops. Like I think it has to be, right? Like
right. In the future?
Yeah.
You see it in the future?
Yeah, I guess it has to be the future, right? Because like that's sort of where we ended. Like ideally, I would love if it was before the 7-year time jump ahead. Right. But I don't think we're gonna get that. So I think it's where they are at that point. And then I think it has to end in Pops. Yeah. But I don't know who I want there.
Right.
I know who I don't want there. And I'm sure you guys can guess. No, I still want him to be there. Kevin's fine. Kevin's fine. No, I think it has to end in Pops. What do you... Okay, yeah, that's my...
I love that. And I think I agree with you. I think I want to see a final scene at Pops, but I want it to be intertwined with, you know, a bitch loves a montage. I want a montage.
100, and there has to be music. There has to be music.
Yeah. Montage, moments in time that we love and we care about. A powerful voiceover from Jughead talking about how history can change things, but also bolster the future. And I don't know. And then having everybody. I want to see every single freaking person that we've seen. Ethel Muggs. I want Hiram Lodge.
She was in the episode. Did you notice her?
No.
She was in the episode.
They paid her for 5 seconds. I didn't even see her.
When Jughead was in the science class, she was like beside him.
So random. She does show up this season like covered in blood, so like it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But yeah, I want to see everybody. I want it to be powerful. I think Pops is a super powerful place to end it, and just really like maybe it is finally like typing the end on a typewriter. Pressing enter, closing the book.
No, okay, okay. You put me on the spot, so now I have a better answer. No, my answer is that. But what I would absolutely love is like, okay, Archie and Betty are sitting in the booth and they're talking, and then at the same time, like Jughead's like typing away like in another scene, and then like they're talking and laughing like that first scene in the diner. Then Veronica comes in and they're like, oh, and she's like, are the onion rings good here? And they're like, yeah, and then like she sits. Then Jughead like types like the end or something like that. Like you don't see it. Maybe it's like off camera. Like it's like he types it and then he comes into the diner too. And then it like pans back to his typewriter and like he wrote it like the end. Done. We just wrote it for you guys.
Mic drop. You're welcome.
And it has to have some good music. Like do not play it like without music.
Give me graduation. As we
that would kill me. That would kill.
They finally paid for it for the final
Unwritten
season.
By Natasha Bedingfield. But the irony is that it is written.
It is written.
It was written.
She'll do the remix. It'll be the rest is written.
Still written. The end. Period. There's no ... This shit ain't going on.
Period. Yeah.
This is done.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, guys, what a ride.
And yeah, I would love to know what you guys thought about it too. Give us your thoughts on that. But to finish off this podcast, I would like to take this time to thank our patrons of the episode, the OGs, the news.
OGs, they got us.
Love you guys. Our Rewinder squad, we have White, Cliff, Hannah, and Julia. We have our lit rewinders, Tina and Kate, and our mommy rewinders, Becca, Sarah, and Tamala.
Thank you guys for always supporting us. If you'd like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind.
And also make sure you check us out on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and now we got the TikTok, TikTok. So check us out there as well.
So fast.
You can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind.
We love you
Thanks
all.
for listening. We love you.
Bye.